Dust clung to the heat-heavy air as a town of Dry Creek simmered under the afternoon sun. The streets were near empty, save for the distant clip-clop of hooves and the occasional bark of a mangy dog. The saloon's piano had gone silent, the bar stools mostly empty, just as the townsfolk liked it when trouble wandered in. She came into view with a sway in her step that wasn't from confidence but exhaustion. A frayed bonnet hung limp on her back, the string dangling against her throat. Her dress, once blue, was sun-faded and torn, and strapped to her hip, not a gun, but a leather satchel that looked too small to hold much more than a comb and coin. "That's her," murmured a shopkeeper's wife from behind the curtain. Marshall should have never let her walk, spat her ranch hand leaning on a hitching post. "Thief!" The woman heard them, as she had in every town since Red Bluff. But she kept walking, head high, even if her stomach growled and her feet ached. She was done running. Her name was Clara Dane, and 5 towns ago, someone had claimed she'd stolen a brooch from the mayor's wife. The brooch was planted in her things by someone she trusted. By the time she realized it, the law was at her door and her name was in tatters. But the worst part wasn't the accusation. It was a betrayal. She had nowhere left to go, no family, no one to speak for her. That was, until she stumbled into Dry Creek and into the path of a man with eyes like storm clouds and a quiet, wary soul. Chapter 2, The Cowboy's Code. Colt Mercer didn't take kindly to gossip. He lived outside town, worked cattle for the Whitmore Ranch, and spoke only when words mattered. Folks respected him, but kept their distance. He'd lost too much in the war to waste his time on pleasantries. That afternoon, he was hauling sacks of grain toward his wagon when he saw her. The woman the town had already spit out like bad jerky. She looked like a tumbleweed ready to blow away with the wind. Then she tripped. He didn't even think. Dropping the grain, he strode toward her and reached out a strong, callous hand. She blinked up at him with green eyes brimming with tears she refused to shed. "You all right, miss?" he asked. Clara hesitated. Most men offered help with eyes that wanted something in return. His were different. Steady, tired, but kind. "I haven't eaten in 2 days," she admitted softly, eyes darting toward the suspicious glances around her. "They say I'm a thief. I'm not." He didn't ask for proof. He simply said, "You can ride with me." Chapter 3, Ashes of the Past. Colt's cabin sat tucked in a valley of juniper and sagebrush, where the wind hummed over Red Rock and the stars came closer than they did in town. It was simple, 1 room, a wood stove, and a battered barn. But it was safe. Clara collapsed onto the cot the moment he showed her inside. He gave her stew and bread, and when she finished eating like a starved coyote, she looked at him suspiciously. "Why are you helping me?" Colt leaned against the doorway. "Because I know what it's like to be blamed for something you didn't do." He didn't elaborate, and she didn't press. But the silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was understanding. That night, she slept soundly for the first time in weeks. Chapter 4, Seeds of Trust. Over the next few weeks, Clara helped around the cabin, cooking, patching his shirts, tending the garden that had long been overrun by weeds. Colt said little, but always watched her with quiet interest. He noticed how she flinched at sudden noises, how she woke in the night, breath quickened by dreams she wouldn't speak of. He never asked her to stay. She never said she would, but they both acted like it was already decided. Then came the storm. Chapter 5, The Fire and the Fury. Lightning split the sky one night and ignited the hills. Fire roared through the valley like the devil's breath. Colt raced to save the cattle while Clara soaked blankets and fought to keep the flames away from the cabin. The barn caught first. By the time Colt returned, smoke clung to his shirt and his eyes burned red. Clara ran into his arms, shaking, and for a moment, all they could do was hold on to each other as if the world might end. "We lost the barn," she whispered, "but the house is fine. I didn't let it take the house." He looked at her, touched her soot-covered cheek. You did more than most would. She looked up. You gave me a place to belong. Colt, I won't let anyone take it. That night, they sat close by the fire pit, and he finally told her about the war, about his brother who didn't come home, and the guilt he carried like an anchor. Sometimes, he said, voice rough, you find peace in the places you never expected. Clara took his hand. So do I. Chapter 6. The Return of the Past. The next morning, a rider came from town. Sheriff Donnelly wanted Clara back in Dry Creek. New evidence, the rider said, not looking her in the eye. Mayor Whitmore's wife confessed, said her son stole the brooch to pay off poker debt. Blamed Clara to save face. Colt's jaw tightened, but Clara only nodded. Her name might be cleared, but the sting of what she'd endured still lingered. Will it make a difference? She asked Colt that night. Will people ever stop seeing me as a thief? Colt looked at her like she was the only star in the sky. Doesn't matter what they see. I see you. That's all I need. Chapter 7. The Reckoning. Clara returned to Dry Creek the next day, not because she had to, but because she deserved to be seen standing tall. The townsfolk whispered, some ashamed, others curious. She walked past the saloon, past the mercantile, and right up to Sheriff Donnelly's office. Say it out loud, she told him. He cleared his throat. Clara Dane is innocent. All charges dropped. A hush fell across the street. That evening, Colt arrived to find her sitting on a bench outside the church, looking at the sunset. Done what you came to do? He asked. Yes, she said, but I've got nothing left here. He offered his hand. You've got me. She took it. Chapter 8. Home is where he is. Back at the ranch, Clara unpacked a bag like she wasn't planning to leave again. Colt rebuilt the barn with help from neighboring cowhands, men who no longer looked at Clara with suspicion, but with newfound respect. They worked side by side, sometimes in silence, sometimes with laughter. One night, as they sat on the porch, Colt placed a small leather pouch in her lap. What's this? He didn't meet her eyes. It ain't much, but it's my mother's ring. She always said I'd know when it was time to pass it on. Clara's hands trembled. Colt! He turned to her. I don't have fancy words. Clara, just truth. You're my home now, if you want it. Tears welled in her eyes, but she smiled. I do. Epilogue, redemption and forever. Clara never forgot what it felt like to be branded a thief. But time and truth have a way of setting fire to old lies. With Colt, she found something she thought she'd never have again, family. They married under the open sky with cattle lowing in the distance and the breeze whispering through the cottonwoods. The people of Dry Creek came, not out of obligation, but out of respect. Colt never stopped loving quietly, and Clara never stopped loving fiercely. Together, they built a life stronger than any storm, fire, or rumor, because in the Wild West, where law was often cruel and hearts were tested daily, two broken souls found each other and became whole.